Good afternoon, Namibia and the rest of the world. My name is Silvanus Loto, and I will be your moderator for the day. Our topic, as has been for the past 3 sessions, National Cybersecurity Awareness Creation. As we wrap up on the National Cybersecurity Awareness Raising Creation that aimed at elaborating strategies for capacity building mechanism to raise awareness, transfer know-how, and boost cybersecurity. On the national level, we take a deeper look into some of the technicalities being cyber resilient. Today in studio with me is Ms. Vanessa Maresh from South Essential IT. She is the empowerment specialist, with her colleague Ms. Grace Kashivena. And the gentleman with us in studio is Mr. Edward Nepolo. He's a lecturer at NAST doing lecturing computer science. Up next is an anatomy of a short video of anatomy of hacking. Please stay tuned.
How did you decide?
Well, I'm not really sure what it means to become a hacker. That's like some guy in a hoodie who types really fast and stays up all night writing code and cracking passwords. It's not me. I just spy on people and see what makes them click. It's not a bad job.
Mark Hanning, CEO of Qualicart, set to report earnings after their blockbuster IPO.
So you consider this a job?
I put a lot of work into this. I'm not lazy. It takes research to figure out the key players, learn all about them, their families, their friends, what they care about. You have to understand the company's organization. I get a lot of my information from the sales department because they're always so quick and eager. They're hungry. People trust too easily. They don't look at the details. I do. Details matter. That's what I'm good at. It has to look completely believable. It has to look familiar. This is where research is important. It's not some generic piece of spam. It's an email from their boss with their company signature. It's written in the voice of the boss. It's what he would say if he were writing this.
What about the malware itself? How does that work?
Somebody else out there already wrote all the code that does the actual attack. I'm just using it in the attachment. My skill is in my ability to get a bunch of people to click on that attachment. I always wonder what it's like when the whole thing unfolds on their end, when the panic sets in.
Please leave your message after the beep.
Hey, this is Rajiv in finance. Call me as soon as you get this. Something's up with my laptop. I can't
Katie, are you on your way to the office? Something's going on with our file servers.
It's Karen in HR. Our benefits dashboard seems really slow. We're getting calls from users on it. Can you call when you get this? Joining conference now.
Apparently, there's a malware attack targeting our main...
It's ransomware. They're holding us hostage.
We're locked out of everything. I can't even check my phone. What about the backup?
That will take days.
We need this fixed now. Pay it. We don't have a choice. We're reporting earnings in 2 hours.
But how do we know that
Just
they'll...
pay it. Put every single person on getting us back up and running. That's the only priority now.
Okay, it's done.
I have the decrypt key. Mark, we have a big problem. The ransomware was just to distract us. They got inside. They got everything. Customer data, financials, everything.
Qualicart is reeling today from the news that hackers have released the personal information of nearly
The
2
Nasdaq
million
closed lower today, led by Qualicart, which was down 14% on news that their recent data breach may be far worse than the company
Its stock
originally
fell to a
acknowledged.
new all-time low on news that CEO Mark Hanning is stepping down after what is turning out to be one of the worst breaches of personal information in recent history.
Do you feel bad about releasing the personal information? All the financials? All the money that was lost?
All I did was get the files. I'm not the one that decided to release them. I'm not the one that shorted the stock. Somebody else had their reasons for that. It's above my pay grade. I was paid to do a job, and I did it well. And that's what's expected of anyone, isn't it? Anyway, Mark rates bounce back.
Welcome back. As this is an interactive session, please do feel free to comment or post your questions on our Facebook or YouTube. On Facebook, which is the MICT, Republic of Namibia, and MICT on YouTube. When people fall victim of hacking, are there specific procedures or standard procedures one has to follow to report such an incident on a personal and institutional level? Ms. Kashivena, can you probably give us a bit brief on this?
Yes, I would say from a personal level, the very first thing you should do is not panic. Do not panic, stay calm at all times, because if you panic or if you're in a panic mode, you will not be making rational decisions as to what to do next.
Okay.
And secondly, if, for example, maybe your financial account was hacked, for example, alert the bank immediately, because they might have tools in place to help either stop more transactions from taking place or blocking your account and so forth. And I would say also from an institutional level, I don't know if maybe Vanessa can correct me, maybe the very first thing you can do is create a cyber incident report, because it helps analyze the different stages even when complete information may not be available. Helpful information will come from this incident, like, for example, who experienced this incident, and what sort of incident occurred, and how and when the incident was detected, and what response actions have already been taken towards this incident, and who has been notified. And I think from there you can take it and either report it to the authorities and get as many people on board as possible.
I see. Well, thank you. Collecting of online evidence, let's say in the case where someone is hacked or so, and you mentioned an incident report that needs to be filed. Attaining such evidence for online purposes, perhaps to file your claim, your report or so on, how does one get to attain such evidence for cybercrime analysis or one of those? Ms. Moresh, of course, sorry.
No problem. So this evidence is obviously proof of a crime being committed. So this would be residing on either your device or in a cloud platform. If it was a scenario that Facebook was used and Messenger, perhaps then those messages would then be sitting within your Messenger. So I think something that everyone must know is definitely not to delete any evidence. Hang on to that, because as Grace mentioned, it is wise to collect all of the information, and when you go to the police, because it is a crime, so you need to report it to the police, and then you have all of that. If you don't have the information, it's very difficult getting it for us as individuals, because we don't have access to other people's accounts. We only have access to other people's devices. We only have access to what is in our world, so what is on our devices and in our feeds and messaging tools and systems. So, and then again, it would also be illegal for us to try and obtain that information. So it's best to follow the guidance of the law, and if indeed you do have such evidence on your devices or on your emails or whatever, hand that over, because that can then be used in support of the police getting a court order. If they do have a suspect in mind, then they can use that evidence to get a court order, because, and I think we mentioned it in our first session, it is a fundamental human right, is the right to privacy. Mm-hmm. So the police can also not just randomly scan your WhatsApps and your text messages and whatnot. There needs to be a very good reason for it, and a judge needs to make that call. So retain everything you can. If you have been the victim of such a crime, don't delete anything, keep everything, go to the police, and then you give it over to them. And if they then have suspects, or you are even thinking that you have an idea who this could be, if it's someone that impersonated you, whatever the scenario was, you give all of that to them and let justice run its course. even though cybercrime is quite new, it's still we are still covered to an extent by the legal system, and that is what we must use if we are going to, but by all means, please do not report it. Please report it. Because, and then as Grace mentioned, not just the reporting of it, but also talking about it. Obviously, if it is an investigation, you might not be allowed to be talking about it publicly. But if it is something like, oh, this guy just tried to scam me on buy and sell on Facebook or on Insta or whatever, then talk about it. I mean, it wasn't a successful crime, so talk about it and tell your social media friends about it, because next time the scammer is going to approach them, they're going to know it's a scam.
I see.
And also, just
Just
to
add
add to that, I mean, reporting it to the authorities, it helps because authorities work together to help affected entities understand the incident, link related incidences, and also share information to rapidly resolve the incidences or situations in a manner that protects your privacy and civil liberties as well.
I see.
Yeah.
Ms. Moresh, tell us, how difficult is it to trace hackers? I know they use different IP addresses, perhaps showing different locations, might be the other side of the world. Is it usually an easy task, or is it usually very complex one?
Well, you do get super smart software. For example, we use one of those super smart softwares where it actually can detect if someone is trying to log into your account. So we would see that it wouldn't identify the person, and I think sometimes that's the challenge, because it's not going to say this is John Doe. It's just going to say that there's been a breach of your account, or someone is trying to get into your account. It alerts you that someone is trying to do it because someone's gotten hold of your password. Mm-hmm. And as mentioned previously, passwords are a big problem, and we're trying to go into a passwordless world, but it's still taking time. But yes, you can detect when hackers are trying to get into your accounts or your systems or tools. So software for that is available. And the scary thing about that is that mostly these people or these individuals, or even and mostly it is individuals using software or something like that, they can hang around without you knowing them being there for a couple of months. That's why the extent of the damage, like we saw in that video, can be so vast, because these people have planned it so well that they really, they've spent their time, they've done their research on you, so by the time they actually hit you, it's too late. They know that you have only made a backup 2 days ago, or they know these things because they've been in your environment. So it's difficult, much more difficult pinning this to a physical individual. And I think that's where the challenge is, because it's an international problem, so they can be sitting wherever in the world. So that is challenging, but they can be traced. And that's where, what Grace said, the international relations and the cooperation of countries and organizations is so very important, because that's when we really need to leverage off that. If we have detected that someone from Hong Kong has tried to get into our account, we can then work together with whoever we are having a relationship with there, that can act faster on the ground, because the problem is so widespread.
I see. Great. How should institutions capacitate their end users to be cyber resilient? Mr. Nipolo.
Thank you very much for the question. One of the things that we strongly recommend institutions to do is to continuously engage in these kinds of activities, in a sense of awareness, for example, and training and all these kinds of stuff. Okay. Because I always say that if the users themselves are not trained on how to identify these kinds of stuff, it's a matter of somebody just being tricked into clicking on a link or opening a specific file, and the attack is done. So it really goes on down to awareness. And coming to think of it, a lot of times modern hackers actually, they don't really hack through firewalls. It's sort of like a suicide mission. Firewalls today are very, very smart, and they will detect all these kinds of things. So I would say it's my personal opinion, probably more than more than 50% of attacks rely on what you call social engineering. You have to sort of take advantage of somebody's sympathy or empathy, trick them into doing something, and through that social engineering, they can get hold of systems. And one of the things that I thought of actually is what you call rubber duckies. A rubber ducky is a flash drive, it's a USB that is automated. Once it's inserted into a specific system, by itself, it will already start doing damage without any user intervention. So the social engineering part of that is that I would make maybe 5 rubber duckies and plant them around your organization. Somebody somewhere is going to need a USB to do something.
Or you just be smart and you put on the USB stick, you put on salaries October 2022.
Exactly.
Someone's curiosity is going to get the better
curiosity
of
is
it.
going to, oh, let me see who's earning what. Then they plug it into the system, and just by doing that, the job is done. You know, so the point that I'm trying to make is awareness and training is very important.
Good to see. I understand there are 5 categories, of which 3 should be violated in order to be classified as hacking. Could you perhaps break it down to us and perhaps give relatable examples?
Okay, we call them the 3 principles of the CIA triad. CIA is standing for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So we'll start with the first one, confidentiality, which means that data should only be viewed by people that have permission or that are supposed to be viewing that data. And under confidentiality, with concepts like privacy, like Vanessa said, we need to uphold the data subject's privacy. Even though we are collecting the data, they are still entitled to their privacy. So which means that in this case, the data subject, who's in this case the owner or the data who the person is describing, right, is called the data subject. So the data subject has the right to define what kind of information should be collected about them and who this information can be disclosed to. So that is the privacy part of confidentiality. And then we have the integrity part of the CIA thread, which means that data should always be in its purest form, which means that it should be edited only by people that are authorized to edit this information. But this is in the context of data. Under integrity, we also have the concept of system integrity, which means that in as much as the data is correct, the system that you are engaging with, it can be anything like a web application or a calculator. If you are punching in your calculator 2 + 2 and then it gives you 6, that is the system of that calculator was compromised, because generally it should give you 4, right? You don't want to order something online, you order just 1 product and then it gives you 3 products, you know, that kind of stuff. So it means the integrity of the system should also be upheld in this case. That falls under integrity. And then you have the last one, which is availability, which means whichever data should be shared amongst an organization should only be or should be available to the users that are supposed to make use of this data. So, giving a practical example, let's take a look at ransomware attacks, for example. Ransomware attacks, they encrypt your data until such a point that you've made a payment to the attacker to make the data available for you. So with the ransomware attack, it means that the data is not available to the intended users. So they actually keep it for you. So it violates the 3rd principle of the CIA thread. And then we have the 2 additional ones, which are authentication and non-repudiation. Authentication just means that if I have to go to my PC right now and type in a certain bank, maybe I want to do internet banking. My computer, it happens in the background so fast that the users don't generally know, but there is authentication going on, that my computer needs to make sure that the banking site that I'm visiting is indeed the actual banking site that I'm supposed to be visiting. In the same manner, that banking site need to validate or to authenticate the user. It should make sure that that specific user or that specific computer is not a malicious computer just trying to pretend to be a different computer. So that kind of authentication needs to be there. And then the last one is non-repudiation, which means that a specific action on the internet or if you do something on the internet, if you send an email or do any kind of that stuff, you should not be in a position to deny anything that you do on the internet. So that is what we call non-repudiation. Yeah, so with regards to the first three, if any of those three are violated, then you have compromised the CIA threat and you've hacked somebody. You don't necessarily need to do all of them, just one of them.
I see. Great, thank you. At the same time, I'd like to remind our viewers that our call-in line, studio line is open, and it's 061 400 397. I repeat, 061 400 397. Alternatively, you can leave your comment or question on Facebook at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia, or on YouTube at MICT Namibia. On Monday, we briefly spoke about citizen mindset or attitude towards cyberspace. Could you elaborate your findings or possible resolutions around this, Ms. Kashivena?
I think the nation is responding quite well so far. A lot of people are receptive, and we have received so many outpouring support and queries with regards to the campaign. And to add on, my resolution is pleading with everyone again to follow us on all the platforms that we have put out there, and the information that we're putting out there to make more research and learn more about this campaign, and not stay isolated and be more alert. Yes.
I see. Mr. Nepolo, would you like to get something?
Yeah, she spoke about trying to create more awareness so that people are not isolated, and it's something that I've noticed whenever we speak about cybersecurity in the country. People that are not in the tech space, they always think that cybersecurity is a concern of people, of technicians, IT people, and all that kinds of stuff, which is actually not true. Yeah. Because, of course, I'm in the tech space. I know how to navigate cyber threats, but the people that are ignoring the invitation to participate in these kinds of things, they are the ones that are more vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. So in this case, we would like to urge people that are sort of outside of the tech space line to be more involved in this awareness, because they are the low-hanging fruits.
I see.
Yeah.
Namibia is in the process of signing Memorandum of Understanding with other nations or countries, so per se. When will these bilateral agreements be finalized, and perhaps what will these implementations mean to Namibia? Ms. Marish.
So those type of agreements and MOUs are managed by the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. So SALT is not really in a position to say exactly how far the progress is. I can confirm it is part of the cybersecurity strategy and awareness plan. What I think has a very big impact on us, which is an international regulation that we are directly benefiting of or from, is the GDPR, which is the Global Data Protection Regulation. It was established in the European Union, I think it went live in May of 2018. Why this is such an amazing, for the lack of a better word, amazing regulation is that we are now starting, it took a while to take off, but we are now starting to see the tangible effects of what that regulation means to us, even in Namibia. The regulation stipulates how entities are allowed to process personal information. So it looks at the controllers of personal information and the processors of personal information. And to give you an idea, it's if you're at the doctor's office or at the bank, and there's that screen which you need to put in your mobile number, and then it will tell you which teller to go to. So the controller of the data is the bank, and the processor is that system that's telling you which teller to go to. So the regulation looks at how it gives, it doesn't give guidance, it tells data controllers and data processors how they must treat personal information so as not to jeopardize us. A lot of the social media giants and the search engines like the Googles and Meta and Facebook and all of those, They've really capitalized financially on the lack of such a regulation, because it was like an open playing field. Whatever I searched for, an ad would pop up to generate revenue in ad sales. So that's why people would pay the Googles and Facebook and so on for social media marketing and advertising. But what's happening now with this clampdown, what the GDPR actually says, the GDPR says that if you, even though it's a European Union regulation, if you are transacting with residents of the European Union, then you have to comply with this regulation. And if you don't comply with this regulation, you will be fined. I think it is it now 4% of annual turnover, or up to 20 billion euros, whichever is the most. And I urge the viewers today to go and Google, the top GDPR fines. And we're seeing the tangible change in our social media now. We're seeing personal information suddenly not being viewable anymore, where it used to be viewable. And that is so positive, because it means that us standing together, and even just the European Union enforcing this regulation, and now suddenly everybody has to comply, otherwise you get massive fines. It's changing, it's already changing it. I saw a post from a friend yesterday on Facebook which said, and it had this thing where it was scratched out, like the wife's name and the what and the what. And it's like, what's going on? This is GDPR. This is the reality. This is the power of the good guys standing together. And just like we in Namibia are busy with our Data Protection Act, and we're working with neighboring countries to establish those memorandums of understandings and regulations and things, you can actually see it. Yes, it takes time. These things don't happen overnight, but we are seeing tangible difference, and it's going to have a direct impact on cyber security and our resilience. It's not going to solve the problem. It will not solve the problem, but it will contribute to it, because now the personal information won't be so readily available. You still definitely need to attend the security awareness training, so that, just like Mr. Napolo said, you will know when to click, when not to click, and what are the warning signs. But it's already a step in the right direction, and I think we should all be excited to see where this journey is going to take us.
I see. Mr. Napolo and Ms. Kajivena, perhaps you can share this question. How will you ensure that objectives of this awareness campaign are met as part of your monitoring and evaluation plan? And what is the end goal?
Maybe I can take it. First of all, I would just like to start with the objective for this campaign. The objective for this campaign is to elevate the national awareness of the perils of the internet and steps to utilize the internet safely, and to educate senior government officials in the private sector as well on the devastating impact of a successful attack, and secure the commitment to treat this issue as a national priority. Further, the objective is to educate all netizens, which is internet users, on the internet benefits and dangers, to practice safe habits and avoid harm or compromise their privacy while surfing the internet. So we as a team, we're ensuring that the objectives are met is by being consistent with our approaches, and like, for example, right now with the sessions that we've had with GIC so far, and secondly, partnering with more government institutions and private sectors and media houses such as radio, for example, that we have already penetrated in, to reach a bigger demographic and put the more information out there. Maybe Mr. Napolo can add more on that.
I think she's already yeah, but maybe one of the things that we can say is you see, one of the strategic pillars in the awareness campaign is international collaboration. Okay. And as we call the modern world is a global village. So at some point we are going to have to transact data with other countries, and some countries have requirements. If you are going to handle our data, these are the requirements that you need to uphold. And coming back home, Vanessa earlier spoke about collection of digital evidence in a commission of a crime. One of the key objectives in the awareness raising campaign is for skills development. And digital forensics is one of the most important things in this regard, because, I mean, right now, there's a lot of cyber incidents going on. But would you really say we are skilled enough to hire someone to come collect digital evidence from a device that was used in a commission of a crime? So those are some of the things that we need to look into. I mean, those areas of skills, digital forensics and all these kinds of stuff. Yeah, but so far, I think we are doing well. Like what Ms. Kashivena says, we just need to be consistent in our approaches, and I think in the near future, we are going to be somewhere.
I see.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah,
to add on the monitoring and evaluation, the trainings that we are putting out there, the ones that we have once a week or every Friday, those type of trainings are also helping us collect more information on what it is, more information needs to be put out there, or what customers or people need to know more about. And I just also wanted to state the strategies that companies can also take. Develop a national cybersecurity awareness raising plan, develop and publish awareness creation and materials. This is what we are doing. This is the strategies we are putting into place to help also companies and organizations and individuals as well.
I see. Thank you, Ms. Kashivena. Once again, just to remind our viewers that they can come through on 3 of our platforms. That is Facebook at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. And then there's YouTube, which is MICT Namibia. Alternatively, they can call directly in studio at 061 400 397. I repeat, 061 400 397. Ms. Maresh, tell us, we mentioned earlier regarding reporting of incidents, attempted hackings and all that. Is there a hacking helpline or specific number or an institution that people can run to for these cases?
Okay. So it's a work in progress, but there is progress. Your go-to organization who you can get in touch with if you want to report something or if you want to just engage is actually CRAN, so the Communication Regulatory Authority of Namibia. They are the custodian of that, and I know that they are busy setting up a cyber incidents response center and team and so on.
Okay.
There's unfortunately not yet a number that we can phone. We are from our side, from SALT side, we are actually working to have a infobot set up. So a infobot that you'll be able to not only report to, but get guidance, because not everybody obviously is watching this. And if it does happen to you, you'd like to have a place to go where you can report it, but also what do I do now? You know, we're not the police necessarily, but because the police also maybe will not be in a position to tell you what to do now, because some of these crimes are so obscure and strange. So it will hopefully, that bot will help people with giving tips and guidance and little cheat sheets and what do I do, where do I go, for the different types of attacks that you can suffer or become a victim of. So we watch the space. We'll keep you updated on the bot. But currently there's not really a toll-free number that I'm aware of. Is anyone on? Nope. Okay. I did really inquire extensively about it. But CRAN is the custodian of cyber incidences and reports. But we from our side, together with the ministry, we are also trying to get this bot going so that, people at least have somewhere they can go. It's going to be a WhatsApp bot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you'll be able to just ask it a little question on WhatsApp and it'll come back to you. So we're quite excited about that. In all of these matters, we also urge you to please follow both MICT and SALT on social media, because as we make progress with these things, we will let the community know. And we might even invite you to be part of a test group if you so desire. So please just keep on following us. We really do our best to further the awareness with these types of tools and technology.
I see. Great, thanks. Over the weekend of the 13th to the 15th October, there was a national cybersecurity competition by NAST, of course. Yeah. Okay. Perhaps, Mr. Nepoli, can you just give us a brief again, because I believe Ms. Maresh touched on it sometime early this week. Just again, perhaps what happened and so on.
Yeah, the National Cybersecurity Competition is actually one of the initiatives of NUST, the Namibia University of Science and Technology, to just sensitize awareness and develop skills in the country when it comes to cybersecurity. So what happened over the weekend, we had our 8th National Cybersecurity Competition, where we saw actually an improvement in attendance, and we are talking about in terms of sponsorships and then also the teams that are participating. Okay. And one of the key highlights of that cybersecurity competition is that looking at the previous one that we've been having so far and comparing it to this one, I can almost say that we have developed some skills, because the hackers had to be a little bit more creative just to try and get into the systems of the students. And from that end, I can confidently say that we have developed skills in terms of defending against cybercrime. And of course, we've also created awareness in a sense that we saw a lot of companies showing interest. They sponsored financially in terms of human capital and all these kinds of stuff. And from here, we can really just look forward to it growing. And one thing that is also worth mentioning is that the Honorable Deputy Minister of MICT, Honorable Emma Tiefeles, she is the patron of the competition. And in collaboration with the MICT Ministry, we are sort of taking it forward. And actually, SALT participated in providing the platform, because the cybersecurity competition is set up in a way of you have attackers on one side, which are hackers, and then you have the defenders on one side. So the defenders are then now the students that are trying to secure their normal day-to-day applications, mail servers, web application servers, and all these kinds of stuff. And then the attackers on the other end will try to compromise these systems. And once then, or the team that rather manages to uphold all their systems the longest, then they take the prize. And it's really fun. The only issue is that, again, I would like to urge citizens that are not necessarily in the tech space to participate in these kinds of things, because from observation, more than 90% of the attendants are people in the tech space. They show more interest than people that are not in the tech space, which should have been the other way around, because people in the tech space, I don't need to read the sentence twice to know that this is a phishing scam, right? Nice. But someone who's not necessarily in that space, they might consider, should I click, should I not click, these kinds of stuff. So people in other areas or other fields, please participate whenever we do these initiatives.
I see. Awesome. Actually, an awesome initiative here to bring hackers together.
Yes, and it's actually fun. They enjoy it. They really do enjoy it.
Well, speaking of hackers, perhaps you can give us more light. You find different hackers, to my understanding. Yeah. You find the black hat, the grey hat, and the white hat. Can you maybe differentiate which is which, and to what extent do you find ethical hackers in Namibia? Do you think that they exist?
Yes, they exist. There are quite a few, a number of them actually. So the difference between the three is that you first have, let's define the black hat hackers. These are the hackers that are hacking for damage, for personal reasons. It could be for political reasons maybe, or just to take revenge, or for competition purposes. But basically they hack without the consent of the target. So those are the guys that are hacking to do damage. And then on the other end, you have the white hat hackers, who are sometimes referred to as penetration testers or pen testers. These are the guys that hack, but for a good cause. I know someone would question, like, how do you hack for a good cause? Does it make sense? Yeah, so generally, companies would want to evaluate their cybersecurity posture. How do the cybersecurity or the defense mechanisms that they put in place, how would they perform against cyber attacks? So if they want to find that out, then they can hire an ethical hacker who they enter into an agreement with, and then they give them permission and a hacking scope to say that, okay, we have recently invested in this and this security measures. So we would just like to see how will the measures perform against a simulated attack, in which case then the ethical hacker or the white hat hacker would pretend to be a black hat hacker and try and penetrate the system and record and all these kinds of stuff. So if they do manage to get into the system, they have the legal obligation according to the contract that they've signed with the target or with that specific organization to report back to say that, okay, I've been able to hack and I was able to compromise this system, and these are the means that I was able to do that. And on top of that, there are recommendations also to the organization to say that, okay, in order for you to mitigate this kind of vulnerability, you have to install this and this application and all these kinds of stuff. So generally, white hat hackers, they do hacking for good. It's basically just to evaluate the security posture of a specific organization, and it has to be done with written consent from that organization. And then, of course, you have in the middle the gray hat hacker. These are seasonal hackers. You know, one day he's doing good, and the other day he's doing bad for whatever reason. So the gray hat hackers are actually the ones that are floating in between the two.
I see.
Yeah.
Cybercrime can be diverse, of course. Can we, Ms. Moraes, can we maybe focus a little bit on cyberbullying and what actually happens when someone is being bullied?
Well, again, I always like to draw the comparison or the parallel to the real world, because I think where our misconception of the virtual world comes from is that our first contact with technology was as kids, where we played games. And when you die in a game, it's game over, but you can try again. And now, I think that's sort of what's been lingering in our back minds, is that if it's done in the virtual world, it can't really do harm. The opposite is the case. So, traditionally, I mean, you would have kids bullying each other, calling each other names, teasing each other, you know. And I think just like some of us that are happy that at the time when we were clubbing, there weren't any, cameras didn't have videos.
Social media.
Yeah, social media. It's different today. So if you do something embarrassing and it's caught on video, that can be used and it can be circulated using WhatsApp, using even posted on Facebook. Individuals can be harassed in that way, and it can actually become such a problem. And I think we're seeing it in our suicide figures and with regards to our youth, and it's scary. So, because it definitely has a contribution to causing emotional distress for our kids. So yes, it's exactly the same tactics. It's just now that when they are having that fight in the back of the schoolyard, there's someone that's making a video of it. And the kid that's being beaten up is now further going to be humiliated because that video is now going to do the rounds. And I think it's much more difficult to police this from a parent point of view, because parents, they are many times not exposed. If you're smart or if you are really concerned, you'll invest a bit of time on looking at things like parental controls, and also looking at what you are actually giving your child. I mean, to give a young child access to WhatsApp for me is ridiculous. Yeah. They don't need that. But yes, some parents do, and I also think it's because the parents don't understand what could possibly go wrong here. But you need to think about what could possibly go wrong, and you always need to have your children's mental well-being at the top of your mind. So, as a parent, and I think also as a teacher, we need to be cognizant that now the bullying can be made so much worse because there is now technology to expose our our failures or whatever happens, embarrassing moments. So, they'll get together and they'll say, okay, then I'm going to give that guy a wedgie. You stand ready with the camera. We're going to put it on TikTok. And that the ramifications of that for an individual. I mean, it's bad enough seeing it. It's over. It's done. You can go and cry in your room until you've gotten over it. But now it's on social media. Yeah. So it's actually made the extent of the damage that can be caused so much worse. And so yes, it's a very sensitive topic, but it's definitely one worth looking at. And I think that when we do our awareness at schools, we're definitely going to have that as part of our agenda, because everyone also needs to understand, once again, if we don't talk about it, if we don't bring it to light, if we just go and cry in our own rooms, we're not addressing the problem. And we also need to create an awareness with our parents and with our educators about this.
Great.
I just wanted to add on that as well. I mean, if you feel like it's becoming overwhelming for you as an adult or whatever age group you may come from, rather shut down, rather just take a break from social media and just maybe recollect. And there are settings in certain social medias where you can either disable your comments, disable your messaging. Maybe you can only just get messages from people that are of close circle. And yeah, those are just some of the things you can also do instead of just isolating and not.
Like they say, once something is on the internet, it's difficult to really delete it, yeah? Yep.
Well, I've tried. I've had a scenario with something that was posted on a website and it just hung around in Google search forever. And we logged calls and we really did our best. I think it's still hanging around there. Yeah. So yeah, once you put it out there, it's very hard getting it off.
I see. Cyberbullying, of course, it has a huge impact on the youth or the community at large. Once the bill is enacted, how effective will this bill be in combating cyberbullying?
That's an excellent question. It's an excellent question, but I don't know how effective it will be because the bill is around data protection. So yes, I guess some form of it could be, if it's personal information being used, you could be protected under the Act. But in general, I don't think it's going to give you recourse. It's just like traditional bullying again. Yeah. It's not, I mean, and I think that it's quite difficult for kids because if you punch someone as a grown-up, there is recourse that it's assault. I can go and report it to the police and I can make a case. And, it seems like with our kids, we don't see it the same way. It's okay. Toughens them up. Let them be beaten up. Let them be punched. It's not okay. It's not okay. Why do we as adults have recourse and our kids don't? But I'm going off on a tangent here. I don't think the our Data Protection Act will really cover that. That is a matter, like I said, if it really gets so serious and the educational community or the teachers and the principal and the parents really can't address it, then it is a matter, I mean, if you hit someone, you can make a case of assault.
Just like that. Yeah. Of course, Mr. Polo.
Yeah, just to add on what Vanessa says, I mean, government is trying hard, to protect everyone. But then it's not solely the government's responsibility to make sure that the netizens are safe when it comes to using the internet. In that case, we spoke about cyberbullying, in which most of the times it happens on kids that are younger than 18. And if you look at the age group that we are talking about, these are kids who are supposed to be on the internet under parental supervision. But now, as parents, we want to look modern. We give kids everything that they ask. So what I'm trying to say here is the parents also have a leading role to play in protecting their kids when it comes to cyberbullying. A lot of applications, YouTube, Google, Instagram, all these kinds of stuff, whenever you want to register an account with them, you have to be 18 years and older. But of course, for authentication purposes, you need a SIM card to verify that it's really you and all these kinds of stuff. So kids would use their parents' details to register for these kinds of stuff because they are not yet 18. And already by the parents doing this, you can say they're accomplices to the crime if they end up being a cyberbullied on the internet. So my point is just we as parents, or the adults rather, should also take the leading role in protecting our children from cyberbullying.
Yes, and I think that the go-to, I mean, sometimes I myself am also guilty of it because it's so easy if the kids are on the device. They're suddenly very calm, they're docile, really good. Yeah. So it's like, but then you need to know what your kids are watching. Yeah. I mean, letting your kids loose on YouTube at a very young age, and it happened to me, I didn't even know such things existed at the time, where my son was looking at a YouTube, and it was this series of kiddie stories, and I was walking past the living room and I was checking the screen and I'm like, what is that? And it was in this program, somehow this guy, and he had this little rabbit, and I was thinking, what are you doing with the rabbit? What are you doing with the rabbit? And before I even saw what he did with the rabbit, I put it off. But my point is, these things lurk there. They lurk there, and the damage you can do if your child sees that, they don't know how to process that.
Yeah.
So again, yes, it's nice if they're on the device, but just know what they're watching and check in and understand that it is wonderful. YouTube is a wonderful platform, but YouTube unfortunately has a mind of its own. It has an algorithm. You watch certain things and certain things pop up naturally afterwards, and it just runs. So you need to be aware of that. You cannot just leave your kids unsupervised with on any social media or on the internet. You can't.
See. Well, what our panelists are trying to say is that the government is coming forth. However, parents or guardians, please do bring your part in creating a framework or a safe space for your children. It is. Not forgetting, our topic for today was National Cybersecurity Awareness Creation. Perhaps any last comments from the panelists?
Yeah, attend our cybersecurity awareness training sessions, please. They are free. Reach out to the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. We are partners in our endeavor to, I don't think we'll ever win the war, but you know, we're going to give it a go, and we need everybody in Namibia to be a part of this, especially the non-tech people. We're there to support you. Again, like Mr. Johannes earlier said, we probably won't be able to visit every house, but we can try to make a plan. So please reach out to the ministry if you are interested, or if you want to participate, or if you think you can help or your organization can help in any way. Please become a part of our army. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah, thank you. For myself, it's just to say that if you are suspicious of anything, if somebody is calling you and trying to tell you that, no, you've won a lottery, send these details and all that kind of stuff, it's always better to ask the next person, see what they say with regards to whatever you are suspicious about. Otherwise, you yourself, you can, just read between the lines. If you've never entered a lottery, then there's no way that you're going to win something like that. So just be vigilant, basically.
Yes, I would say it takes everyone holding hands to help fight cybercrime, because it is a nationwide problem. So let us all hold hands, help another, help a friend, help a brother, and don't stay isolated, and be alert on all platforms, on all social media platforms, and get as much information as possible.
Thank you, Namibia and the rest of the world, for joining us. This is the Government Information Center. My name is Sylvanus Loto. Good day.